Hi everybody, welcome to week 2 of Facebook marketing. This week we are going to be talking about content strategy. So welcome. I know that most of you have already joined the Facebook group, but if you haven't done so yet, please do so now. We've got a lot of great discussions going on there. We'll be sharing updates, and of course, because as soon as I record any video, it's already out of date because social media moves so quickly. I will be posting different updates, and we'll be having discussions about new things with Facebook as they come up. So definitely join the Facebook group. And for those of you who have joined but you haven't been approved yet, it's because your name for Facebook doesn't match what we have listed at George Brown. So if you use a different name for your Facebook account than what you've registered with at George Brown College, send me an email, alliegbc@gmail.com, and just let me know what name you use on Facebook so that I can approve you in the group. We've had a lot of spam accounts try and join the group, so I have to double check just to make sure that our group remains delightfully pure and about Facebook marketing and not about spam content. This week we are going to cover campaigns and content, and this is probably one of my favorite ways of starting the course. Last week was definitely a get everybody up to speed. This is the history of Facebook. This is where we're at, and that the main purpose of the first week of course lecture was to make sure that all of the people who are brand new to Facebook are well versed in the different elements of Facebook so that we can all move forward at the same pace. So this week we really get to dive in. So we're going to be talking about what's the point of campaigns and content, knowing your audience, which tools you should use, planning your content, and then you have your first assignment this week. It is definitely going to be more difficult than the quiz last week. I know that the quiz was probably fairly simple for most of you, especially based on some of the marks that are already logged, your attempts at the quiz. Everybody seems to be doing very well, so good job, you're paying attention. This week it's definitely going to be more about strategy and tactics and thinking more in depth about your brand, your customers, your donors, whatever it is that you're trying to serve. So that's what we're going to be talking about this week. Content. So here we go. What is your purpose of being on Facebook? Well, duh, Allie, it's to make tons of money and get famous. I want to make that money. I want to get tons and tons of likes. Why else would I be on Facebook? Well, definitely you want to make money, and a company like 3M is an example that I want to use. Go back to that slide in just a second. So 3M is a company, obviously a successful company. If you are anything like our house, I'm sure that you've got a stuffed drawer or two hanging around, and in that stuffed drawer there's bound to be a 3M product, whether it's tape or post-it notes or something like that. So 3M is this really well-known, fairly successful brand, but then when you come to look on Facebook, on their Facebook page, you'll see that their engagement is very low. So they're probably not making many sales off of their Facebook page, and I think it's a missed opportunity. So they have 4 million page likes, which is nothing to scoff at, but they are multi-billion-dollar brand, so you would expect them to be able to have a little bit more of an online presence. So they have this video that they created for International Women's Day, and it only has 1,000 views on it. And when you've got 4 million page likes, but only 1,000 views, and 20 different reactions or interactions from people, I would say that your engagement ratio is incredibly low. And if you're the type of company who is just focusing on getting page likes and not really focusing on engagement or getting people past that initial, I've liked the page, now I need to interact with that page. When you focus just on likes, you really miss out on the opportunities to engage your audience. And engaging your audience is how you get them to convert to either a customer or a donor or a client. So whatever it is that you are trying to do for business purposes, you need to think about that when you're on Facebook. And we'll talk a little bit about metrics and vanity metrics later on in this course, but I would say that likes is typically, page likes is a vanity metric when you are solely focused on that one thing. So here 3M could be doing lots of great stuff. They could be highlighting their content. They could be linking to sales pages, but they haven't done that. Xerox is another example of a pretty large company on Facebook that seems to be really only focused on likes. I think they've got something like 1 million or so likes on their page, but then when you look at each individual post, their engagement rates are so incredibly low. So you've got these two different posts, and I pulled these posts several days after they were originally posted on the Xerox page, so it's not just that it hasn't had enough chance to get likes or anything like that. And then when you click on their page and you go to load their blog post, which is taking just a few minutes to load here, you'll see that not only is their call to action on their Facebook page not very strong, but when you actually look at the article, you'll see that the call to action at the bottom of their blog article is not very strong either. So the article is decent if you're looking for cloud information. You've got a lot of good resources there, but then they've got 3 or 4 different calls to action on your page. So this is just to show you that not only does your content on Facebook have to make sense for your audience, but it also needs to integrate properly with what you're doing on your website. So let's take a look at some companies that are doing things a little bit better on Facebook. So we'll take a look at WWF. I've already got it loaded here. So WWF is a nonprofit. They work on environmental issues and animal issues, and I think they do a very good job on their Facebook page of making this an engaging place for the people who support their cause. So let's just take a look at some of the content that they have. So first of all, thought I had already looked at the page. So they're using their call to action button. So every Facebook business page has this option to have a call to action. They're using it as a donate button, which I think is very smart for a nonprofit. So when you click that, it'll go to their donation page. And you'll also see that they are using some very engaging content. So they've got a video here. You can see that they've got a lot of different engagements. It's not people just mashing the like button. They're also putting other types of reactions. So they are taking the time to go through and, like it or love it or wow it, I suppose. And you can see that there are also comments. So there are people that are interacting with this content. If you scroll down a little bit farther in their page, you'll see that they have they're using other types of media. So this is a GIF, and basically what you can do with WWF is you can symbolically adopt an animal, and you get a plush version of the animal that you symbolically adopt. So their call to action here is to donate. Symbolically adopt this spunky species today is their specific call to action. They've got a link so that you know that that's what they want you to do. You want to click that link and make a donation. So they're making good use of not only timing, because Easter's right around the corner, and so a lot of people are buying gifts. Why not make it something that is a gift for good? But they're also making use of call to actions very effectively here. If we continue to scroll down, you can see that we'll talk a little bit more about content mix later on, but you'll see here that they're not just posting information that they have created themselves. So one of the main issues that WWF Canada works on is microplastics, or microbeads, you might have heard of. And so these are little bits of plastic that are in all sorts of regular household products, whether it's toothpaste or body scrub, any type of exfoliant, or some household cleaning products have these little microplastics. They get into the water supply, and it's showing up in the stomachs of aquatic species. So this is a big issue, and it's being reported on by CBC. And so WWF Canada didn't write it, but it is an issue that is relevant to their followers and their supporters. So they have posted this article to their Facebook page so that they can educate their followers on the issue. Okay, Buffer is another company that's doing a really great job on Facebook. Of course, I'm going to shout out to Buffer because I think that they can basically do no wrong when it comes to their content marketing strategy. So you'll see that they've pinned this post here at the top of the page. So that means that anybody who's visiting their Facebook page, this is the first thing that they're going to see. It's an interactive video from Madrid. So they just did a big summit there. You can see that they've got a lot of engagement, and pretty much every time that they post, whether they're posting with a link or they're just posting a meme, there is some sort of visual content. And if you are posting from your website, if you're posting a link from your website, a photo should auto-generate if you have a photo uploaded to that blog post. And if it's not automatically updating, then you should talk to your web developer to make sure that that's working for you. And so you can see that they're not just posting information about themselves. They do use memes, and they help to reinforce their brand personality by posting, Seinfeld memes, for example, and posting about, what we might consider marketing days. So St. Patrick's Day is a time where, a lot of people are going to be posting about St. Patrick's Day. So as a brand, if you post about it too, then you're part of the conversation. So you can see that they have a lot of visual content. Social Media Examiner is another example of a company that's doing a really good job with their Facebook page. Social Media Examiner is one of the few places that I go for my social media marketing information, because I find that they have not only really good content that they write, but they pull in a lot of experts from the field for guest posts, and I don't think that they have a lot of clickbait. So it's a really good resource if you're not already following them. But you'll see that they do use a lot of visuals, and their calls to action are pretty strong. They want people to click on their articles, and when we talk a little bit more later on about content mix, you'll see that Social Media Examiner is posting a lot more about themselves. They're not doing a lot of calls to action or engagement with their posts, but they do post a lot in their comment section. So they interact a lot in their comment section. So they put out a lot of really good content. They write a lot of really good content, and they know that that's what their audience wants. So it's okay that they are posting information that they have written more often than not. So let's go back and talk about the purpose for being on Facebook. Why is it that you're on Facebook? It's to engage, it's to educate, to entertain, enable people, to amplify, to sell, to delight. Maybe you're getting people to sign up for your newsletter. Maybe you're getting people to try and buy a product or advocate for some cause. There needs to be that purpose, and there needs to be a purpose that is community driven, because of course it is social media for a reason. All right, which brings me to knowing your audience. And knowing your audience is key in terms of marketing, period. Whether you're social media marketing, whether you're conventionally marketing to people, you need to know who your audience is. If you are selling something, you need to know who's your customer, who's going to be buying your product. If you are a nonprofit, you need to know who cares about this cause, who's going to be making donations, who's going to be advocating for us, who's going to help educate the population. If you're providing a service, who needs your service? Why do they need it? What pain points are you solving? So this is something that I talk about in pretty much every social media marketing course that I teach. It is marketing personas, and creating these marketing personas is the best way for you to know your audience and for you to keep these fictional but based in reality people in the back of your mind when you are posting on social media. So I won't go into a great amount of detail about this, because I know in other courses that you've already taken, you're already going to have gone through this, but this is one of your required readings for the week. It's the Buffer blog about marketing personas, and you're also going to have to create some marketing personas in your assignment this week, so you can give that a read for yourself. I won't go over it because it's just going to be me reading the article to you, which is super boring. So you want to be creating, 2 to 4 marketing personas, I would say. If you're a super huge company with lots of different departments, then you're probably going to have more than 2 to 4. But for the most part, I think that if you can come out, if you're a small business, if you have like 1 or 2 people that need your product, or if you're a service and you've got 3 different people that need your service for a specific reason, you would create these marketing personas. And then when you're thinking about posting, it's like, okay, which of my people is this relevant to? Is it relevant to John? Is it relevant to Sally? Is it relevant to Miriam? And then if you can't figure out who it's relevant to, then you need to be asking, why am I making this post? So know your audience, know their pain points. Why are they frustrated? Why do they need you? Turn this frowny face guy into a happy face guy. That's your purpose for being online, for being on Facebook, and for really taking the time to generate these communities and to engage with them. Okay, so what Facebook tools are going to work for you?
We are going to go through Facebook pages, Facebook groups, individual Facebook profiles, Facebook Messenger, and Facebook events. We're going to leave WhatsApp and Instagram off the table. We're going to be talking about Instagram later on in this course, and I feel like WhatsApp is a standalone app that might not factor into your Facebook marketing strategy.
Okay, Facebook pages. Sorry that these are text heavy, but we're going to have some examples as we go along. So the pros of using a Facebook page, I think first and foremost, are the fact that you can advertise. So if you have a page on Facebook, you can then advertise through that page. So you don't get that with any other option. I do believe that advertising is going to be coming to Facebook Messenger soon, but it's going to be linked to your page. So if you want to advertise, then have a page. You don't have any limits to connections, so you can have 4 million, 5 million, however many people liking your page and interacting with your page, and your page can follow other pages as many times as you want. So I have an example here. Where is it? Here. This is Wim Hof. I know that he's relevant to one of the pages that I manage. So I can say I want to like him as my page. And now when I am on the agency fitness page, I know that I'll be able to see the updates from this page as well. So it'll be easy for me to share and things like that. If anybody does go looking for the agency fitness page, you won't find it on Facebook because it's private currently. So you have no limits to connections. Facebook pages are searchable on the public web. So if you're using Google or Bing or any other search engine, Facebook pages will pop up in the search results. You don't have to approve likes, so you don't have to worry about, like with Facebook groups, for example, like our page, it's a closed group, so I have to go through and approve everybody who's a member of that. So you don't have that other layer of administration when you have a Facebook page. You can control what people see. So if you don't want people to see messages that other people are posting onto your profile, then you don't have to let people see that. You can build apps which can be integrated into your Facebook page. A lot of bands will have different apps, and we'll go through a couple of examples of that in a few minutes. There's that call to action integration. So just take a look here. Like every page has the opportunity to have these call to action integrations with them. And then, of course, you get access to Facebook Insights, which is the back-end metrics for built in to see how your content is performing. So the cons of being with a Facebook page is that organic is really, really hard. It's turning into a pay-to-play environment, which means if if you really want to get your posts out there, if you are new to Facebook marketing and you haven't developed a huge network of people right away, then it's really hard to get that organic engagement. So you are going to have to think about having a budget to advertise to get your content out there and to get the page likes that you are looking for. Of course, you don't have to pay, but it is helpful if you don't have an audience already engaged. There's lots of noise. So there are tons and tons of posts on Facebook right now, and it's only increasing. And we'll talk a little bit more about like the actual numbers. I've got a slide later on. And of course, the conversations are a little bit different. So it is definitely the brand talks to the fans can talk to the brands, but there isn't a lot of fan-to-fan interaction. So if you are the type of community like Buffer, for example, where they really try and stimulate conversation amongst Buffer users. So they do that with Twitter through their Twitter chat. And they also, I'm not sure if they still do it because it was overwhelming for me, so I got rid of it, but they had a Slack community where anybody who used Buffer could join their Slack community and have conversations with each other. And there wasn't always a Buffer staff person there. So they were really good at connecting people. And it's a little bit difficult to use that with Facebook pages because people are limited to the comments section of your posts on Facebook pages. So let's just take a look at some of these elements. So you can see that Tech Savvy Solutions, I'm a Tech Savvy customer. I think that they do an absolutely fantastic job of leveraging social media for their uses and for customer support. I had some issues with my internet last night, and I tweeted them, sent them a direct message on Twitter, and I had somebody basically texting back and forth with me for about an hour to figure out my internet issue, and now it's perfect, and I've never had a problem with them. They do the same thing through Facebook, so you can send them a message, and they will troubleshoot all of your information. So you can see that they've got their vanity URL set up. So this is something that you set up in the back end of Facebook when you're setting up your page so that it makes you more searchable. Oops. They have the profile picture already set up and it is on brand. They've got an expanded version of this ad, which you may or may not have seen on buses and things like that recently. So they have their cover photo all set up. Then you can look down along the side and you can see all of the different apps and things that they have connected. So they've got the standard homepage, posts, about, photos, videos, likes, but then you can see that they've got a built-in Tech Savvy newsletter, so you can sign up for their newsletter right here. You can ask them a question. They have video game reviews. But they also have this Shop Now button, so when you click on that, it goes to their desired call to action page. So they're making use of that call to action button. Similarly, you can see a lot of bands make use of these things. So Lamb of God, I'm a fan. You can see that they've got their vanity URL set up. They're verified on Facebook, so they've got their blue little check mark. In your supplemental readings this week, there is a link to show you how to verify your Facebook page. Additionally, you can see that they have used a lot of different apps. So you can sign up for their official newsletter. They've got tour dates. You can shop. They've got an app that's built specifically for their new album. And they have highlighted all of the different events. So they put all of their shows up on Facebook as well as a Facebook event. And then they have links to ticket information within those events. And then of course you've got their Book Now button. So that's what they want people to do. If you want to connect with them, you want to hit their Book Now. And their cover page is their most up-to-date marketing piece of marketing information. So they're going on tour and they're displaying that as part of their cover page. Okay, so using a Facebook group, how could that be beneficial for your business? Well, there are definitely some pros. It creates a tighter knit community. There are no limits to connections, so you can have as many people part of your group as you want. You can approve new members, so while that might be a real pain if you're just trying to get as many numbers as you want, if you're trying to curate your membership, then you do have the option of approving new people. And it works well if you're the brand. So if you're an entrepreneur or a freelancer, maybe you're like a public speaker or something like that, this is a really good opportunity for you if you want to have these like very intimate interactions with your community. It's also a really good tie-in to an existing brand. So, for example, New School of Finance is this really awesome financial planning company. It's run by my friend Shannon Lee Simmons, and they do independent financial advising. They will file your taxes for you, and they've just launched something called the Sole Prop School. So if you're a sole proprietor, you own your own business, and it's just you, like you're a freelancer, you're an entrepreneur, something like that, they have, I think it's 6 courses that you take online, and you learn all about how to set up your finances so you don't get screwed at tax time, which is very important for a lot of people who are just starting out in their business. And as part of the Sole Prop School, you get access to a private Facebook page. And that Facebook page is basically a study group for everybody who's taken the Sole Prop courses. So it's a place for us to ask each other questions, get advice, make business connections, and then also if we have questions related to the course, we can ask it in the Sole Prop School Facebook group. So it's a really awesome place for us to interact, and Shannon is really developing this group of people who are super in love with her brand. So she's creating these brand evangelists in that group as well. So I think she's doing a good job. I'm not showing an example because it is a private group. So what are some of the cons? The brand voice comes from individuals participating, not the brand. So if you are something like Coca-Cola and there is no real public face for the brand, you want everything to be coming from your little red and white Coca-Cola bottle cap. It's hard to do that with a group because the group is run by people. You don't get access to Facebook Insights or any of those types of Facebooky integration, so there's no advertising. Your share factor decreases or is lost entirely. So if you're relying on people sharing your content quite a bit, you don't really want people sharing outside of a group. It's a little bit weird. So you have that that amplification ability goes down. You don't get apps. So if you are at a company that really wants to build a lot of apps to integrate in with Facebook, you're not going to get that at all with Facebook groups. And there's no call to action integration. So as we saw here with the Book Now button, with all of these different options for apps, you don't get that at all with your Facebook groups. You also have you have less content control. So your members are able to post. And although you can create guidelines, which we have for our group, to try and limit spam and limit people from, getting off topic, you don't really have a lot of content control. The only control that you really have is to remove a post or to remove somebody from your group. And as I mentioned, there's no advertising. I highly recommend, this is also linked in your supplemental notes for this week. Buffer just did a podcast with Daniel Dispaza, and he talks about using Facebook groups for building his business and why he thinks that it's a really good idea. So if you are interested in learning more about how you can successfully use a Facebook group for your business, then I highly recommend giving that a listen. So this is an example that I did want to show you. I am a member of the Freelance Business Builders group, and what these guys just did was they just did a week-long online summit, and they had all sorts of experts from the freelance world offer up advice. So some of the content was pre-recorded, some of it was live, and you could basically log in and check out the content as it was happening, or you could go back later on. And I think they're offering, like, you can now pay to access everything as well. But what they've done is they've made a public group so anybody can join it. They have a vanity URL, so you can now have these vanity URLs right in Facebook groups. They have a great cover photo, so it explains what the group is all about. They have a description, and then they have as well a pinned post up at the top, which shows you what's going on in the group and kind of what they want people to get out of the group. So I'm able to post whatever I want. I can add any members. So if I've got a friend who's a freelancer who I think should really be part of the group, I can add that person very quickly. And again, I can interact with other people within the group because I have a list of the members. I can easily click on them and say, hey, I want to talk to, one of these people individually, and we can start messaging back and forth. So it's a way to grow this community. And then, of course, another example is what we have going on. So I just wanted to show you the difference here. So we've got a closed group, which means that I have to approve everybody who requests to be a part of this group. And it's not a private group. So private groups are not searchable within Facebook. So you have to add people to them. But again, it's similar things. So I've got the big cover photos so that you know where you are. You're not posting in the wrong group. I can make a post here. You can see that other classmates have been making posts, which is great. We've got Courtney's posts right here. And we can also see the different members. So if any of you were wanting to get to know each other better, you would be able to click on a member profile and interact with them in that way. So I am able to promote groups. So you can advertise your group, but you can't be advertising any of the content within it. So that's where the advertising bit can fall short. So you can promote your group to get more people to join, but you can't, in fact, say if I posted something and I wanted that to show up in other people's feeds, I wouldn't be able to post that as an ad. Okay, Facebook profiles. Excuse me. Facebook profiles, this is a tricky one. First and foremost, it is, and I can't stress this enough, it is against Facebook's terms of services to use your profile strictly for business. And I think that for a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, this can seem very frustrating because you are your brand. But you can use your Facebook profile supplementary to your brand. And so I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, and we're going to give some examples. So when you're using your Facebook profile, instead of having it super closed off, so my personal Facebook account is totally closed down. Nobody but friends can access it. And even a lot of people that I have friended on Facebook, if they're for work connections, they're on an extremely limited profile. So I don't use my personal Facebook profile as a business tool very often. But there are people who are using it very well. So it gives prospects, customers, supporters, donors, anybody who's connected to your business, a connection to see the person behind the brand. Mark Zuckerberg does a great job of this. Gary Vaynerchuk, Sheryl Sandberg, all of them use their profiles in this way. And it allows you to amplify your brand messages with people who are closely connected to you, or for people who want to get their information about your brand from you. So like I said, it's against Facebook's terms of services to use your profile strictly for business. So you cannot create a profile that is, for example, like Coca-Cola as an individual profile, or like Ali Coca-Cola or something like that. They don't want you creating these profiles. And I've seen it a lot in the post-secondary education field, is that a lot of recruiters are doing things like Jen, U of T, or something like that, and that's technically against Facebook terms of services. So reason that you don't want to be doing this and rolling the dice is because if you've created these profiles, and those are the profiles that are linked to your business page, if they shut down your profile, all of a sudden you've lost your business page connection. Facebook profiles are limited. So we talked about this in week 1. You're limited to 5,000 connections. So that's not just your friend connections, it's connections that you have in terms of liking other pages, being a member of a group. Those are all considered connections. So you can only have 5,000 of those. And you can't boost your personal posts. You can't advertise with your personal posts. So let's take a look at Mark Zuckerberg. He does a really great job of leveraging his personal profile for business. So you can see that he's got his own vanity URL. Anybody can kind of pick their facebook.com/name. So he's using Zuck. He's got a verified account, and you can see that he's turned on this following option, which you can do in your settings. So he allows whoever to follow him. So that means that you're not friending him, because that would be crazy. to have all these people trying to friend him, but you can start following him and then you get all of his public posts. So he posts, this one had some animations. So what he's done is he's posted and he's showing people the ways in which you can use Facebook. He's posting news about Facebook. He kind of uses his updates as blogs sometimes to say what he's up to. And I think that he does a really great job. Obviously, he should be doing the best job because he created the site. Can see that he's got all of his introductory information filled out. So this is all of his not contact information, but work information. You can see that he has his relationship status posted publicly. And he's followed by a ridiculous number of people, 87 million plus people. But you can see that he also gives people access to his life. So he does allow people to see photos. You can see that he's using different things like his posts to work more like a blog, so that you can tell this is what I've been up to, this is what I'm doing, this is how it relates back to Facebook, my company. So I think that Mark Zuckerberg, if you're considering using your own personal Facebook profile for business, you should check out what Mark's doing on his Facebook page. Or you can also check out Sheryl Sandberg, or basically anybody that works at Facebook is doing something similar, especially the higher up folks at Facebook. They're doing a really good job of leveraging their individual profiles for business.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Facebook Messenger. So this is an emerging tool that businesses can use to interact with their customers, their prospects, their supporters, their donors, etc. So one of the pros of Facebook Messenger is that you basically have access to people's back pocket. Now that Facebook has separated Messenger into a completely separate app for mobile devices, you have people using Messenger like a text messaging service. So people are, they're either getting notifications right on their home screen so they can read your message as soon as it's sent, or they're getting notifications to tell them that, somebody is texting them via Messenger. So this is really important for you to get that instant connection with people, which I think is really important. It gives you a layer of privacy when dealing with people, and Facebook really is actively putting more effort into making this a robust business tool. So you'll see that there are bot options, and we'll take a look at that. So you can do self-serve options, and there's ways for you to manage Messenger from a business perspective. Now, there are, of course, some cons with Facebook Messenger. For example, if you're not on the ball, if you're not on top of managing your messages, if you don't have somebody who is dedicated to the task of answering people's messages on Messenger, then people are right there on your Facebook page ready to complain. So it works both ways. If you want people to have access, they're going to have access, but it also means that they're going to be able to have negative sentiments. It could potentially cost more for you to manage because you are going to need to have a staff person who is engaging with customers and answering questions, things like that. You need to set expectations. So what are your hours of operation? Facebook does have an opportunity for you to switch on and off when you're available, so that if people try to contact you, they'll get like an out of office response. And there's also development fees. So if you're going with a bot service, or if you're developing a game, then there are those development fees associated with it. So I think that's important. And another thing to note is I think this is a pro. It adds a layer of transparency. So people will have like a physical written record of their engagement with you. So if you promise a certain service, then there's a reason for you to deliver on it, because people have this expectation and they have this this paper record, essentially digital record of your interactions. And so for me, that's a pro, because it just adds to the transparency as you as a business. But I know that there are a lot of companies out there who don't want to have that written record of interacting. So this is an example of some of the bots that are out there right now in Facebook Messenger. And so if you open up your Facebook Messenger app, this is on my iPhone, and you type in CNN, this will pop up, and it's pretty cool. So you can, when it goes through the prompts, my screen recorder wasn't working properly. If you go through the prompts, you can basically decide what types of articles you want to have automatically sent to you. So I picked health. and immediately the bot responded with a few different options, and then you can read directly from in your app. It sends you a link to all of these different articles in their health feature. You can also get the editor's picks for the day. You can get all sorts of things. The Food Network is a really awesome one that I was super excited to find. So I like to cook all the time, and sometimes I'm hankering for something, but I don't have a recipe off the top of my head. So when you get started, you can either browse through their recipe catalog, or if you're craving something, you can type something in and they'll show you all of these recipes. So at the time I was craving some chicken wings. So I typed in chicken wings, and you can see that all of a sudden all of these different recipe options popped up. And I think that this is a really cool service for a company or business that already has a bunch of content. So like a news business, the Food Network, they have tons of content in this catalog, and they need new ways to get it out to people. This is a really excellent way of doing that. If you are a business that doesn't already have a large catalog of information, this is probably going to not work the best for you, these kind of self-serve options. But if you have, hundreds of articles that are categorized well, and that makes sense for this type of automation, then I think Facebook Messenger could be this really cool way for you to interact with people. And it just gives them another way to have a personalized experience with your brand. Facebook events can be beneficial for sure for you to use as a brand. The pros are that there are definitely built-in ticket purchase features, so you can use links either out to a service that you already have or out to your website where people can buy tickets. So that's a great way of both promoting and also getting money in your back pocket. You can advertise events that have been made by your brand page. So if you're already building an audience on Facebook, then you can leverage that audience through events. Events are shareable within the Facebook community. So, if you've got people that are fans of your page that are already going, they can share it with their friends, or they can invite their friends, which is a great way to double that advertising and promotion. And it sends automatic updates to people who are interested or going. So if you've got content, if you've got updates about your event, which you definitely should have, you don't just want to create an event, set it and forget it. You want to create an event and then be constantly updating people so that they are remembering your event and it's always in the forefront of their mind. And of course, there are also some cons of using Facebook events for business purposes. So let's talk about those.
If you don't have any purchase options, it's hard to rely on the going numbers. So you can't really say that if you've got, 1,000 people listed as going to an event, unless you have their money in your hand, you can't rely on that number at all. If you're using these events for business purposes, then you're going to need an additional content plan. How are you going to keep updating people about what's happening? Keep it in the forefront of their mind. You need to be updating the different bits of information that you have. You need to be posting on your Facebook group, on your Facebook event. And then you run into potential duplication. So if you are running the event through, let's say Eventbrite is where you've hosted your event information. That's where people can buy tickets. So you've already had to post all of that information on Eventbrite. Now you're posting all of the same information on your Facebook page, and maybe you're posting all of that information on your blog or your website. So it's one other place that you have to put all of that information. Your Facebook event won't reach people outside of Facebook. So if you've got a huge email list, but let's say you've got 1,000 people on your e-newsletter list and only 200 of those people like you on Facebook, if you are then sending a link to your Facebook group, to your Facebook event through your email newsletter, not all of those people are going to then join from Facebook, or they're going to see it linked to Facebook and say, oh, well, that's not how I like my interactions with this brand, so I'm just going to ignore this. It's not for me. So there's that issue as well. And then, if you're putting all this effort into an event and posting all this information about the event, once it's gone, you no longer have that interaction with people. So if you're finding new people through this event because friends have invited other friends. That's great. You want to try and make sure that you're converting all of those people to liking your page as well. So it's an additional layer of work that you're doing for yourself. And if you have lots of events, it just means that it's going to take you lots of time to create it. So, for example, say you're Taylor Swift, or more specifically, Taylor Swift's PR people. She posts on her Facebook page. Every single show that she does, she posts it on her Facebook page. So every time she's got a new tour, there's somebody out there creating hundreds of Facebook events for her. Which, I mean, if you're Taylor Swift, who cares? You've got tons of money and tons of people to do it. But if you are maybe a smaller band that doesn't have a lot of time on their hands, or if you're a small company with not a lot of time on your hands, you might not want to be taking the time to put all those events up on Facebook. So as an example, Lamb of God again, you can see that if you scroll way down is where their event listing is, and they list all of their events on their Facebook page. And when you hit the Get Tickets button, it takes you right to their, I think it's Bands in Town or something like that. It takes you right to the page where you can buy tickets, but you can also say that you're interested in this event. So it's kind of like bookmarking it for yourself for later. So there's that option. But then you can see somebody like Foo Fighters doesn't at all use the Facebook events section. So what they do is they have a post to Get Tickets, which is the page that I'm on here. And this Get Tickets is a function of the Bands in Town app. So they're actually using an app which they have already put all of their information into Bands in Town, which is a completely different website, which is where you can get your tickets and information, and then that pulls everything into Facebook. So they're only having to create the event information once, and then all of that information is uploaded to all of the different interfaces that integrates with Bands in Town. So there are different options for sure. Okay, so once you've determined the different tools that you want to use, then it's time to plan out your content. So how do we do that? Well, let's talk about content mix. So there are a couple of different theories that I want to go through, and these theories have kind of been around for a really long time, but Buffer just did a really awesome job of pulling all of it together, so that makes my job way easier. So if you want to get them all in one location instead of having going to each different blog post that I talk about, then you can go to the Buffer blog. So different content mix theories.
The first of these theories I want to talk about is the rule of thirds. And when it comes to Facebook, this is probably my favorite content mix theory to start with. So basically, it's that a third of your content is self-promotion, a third of your content is like-minded content or that found content, and a third of your content is some sort of engagement. So I think that this is a really great place to start for a lot of reasons. It keeps things equal, and it's a good place for you to start when you are going to be starting to measure and testing. So this is probably the one that I start with the most when I'm first starting to work with a brand.
So this next one is very similar. It's basically the rule of thirds, but with the value adds. So it's the 5-5-5 plus theory, and that is that 5 posts are about you, 5 posts are about others, and 5 posts are 5 engagements. So engagements could be commenting back to people. It could be liking and commenting on pages that are relevant to you and your brand. Or it could be, sharing content from someone else. So this is just a way to show that it's just another way of doing the thirds, but then you also have this kind of get out of jail free card with a value add. So, maybe you are doing a giveaway or a promotion, that's a value add. So you can add that into your mix, even if it goes outside of your 5-5-5 mix. The 4-1-1 theory is my favorite for Twitter, and I think it makes a lot of sense for brands who are on Twitter to start with the 4-1-1. But if you are the type of brand that's creating a lot of content, and you're somebody like you're a news organization, or if you're something like a Buffer or a Social Media Examiner where you have your whole purpose is creating all of these articles, then you're going to be sharing those more often. So 411 means four updates are new original content. One update is a like some sort of share or sharing something from somebody else, and one is a very self-serving tweet. Okay, so the 5-3-2 rule, I think that this works well for people who aren't doing a ton of their own original content. Maybe you're doing more like sales, something like that. So 5 posts are posts from others, but of course you want to keep them relevant to your community and your audience. 3 posts are self-promotion, and then you do 2 engagement type posts or interactions. Then there's the golden ratio. Again, this is maybe something for people who aren't doing a ton of their own original content. So it would be 60% of your content is sharing like-minded information. So for example, if you are a charitable organization and you're not blogging a lot, but you're working a lot on issues that are in the media, you could be doing a lot of sharing of articles that are relevant to the work that you're doing. 30% is self-promotion, and then 10% is a call to action. I would say that I would take out this 30% self-promotion and say that would be engagement. So although that's not what Rallyverse intended with these ratios when they originally posted them, that would be my recommendation, is to take this self-promotion and turn that into engagement. And then Michael Hyatt, he is the one that put forth this 20-to-1 rule. And as he states right in the article, if you go through and read it, he said it's not based in science, it's just something that works for him. And the rule is that you have to make 20 goodwill deposits before you can make 1 marketing withdrawal. So you have to do 20 good things before you can make that 1 type of marketing ask. So there are definitely some common threads with all these theories. They are based on relationships, they're based on engagement, and it underscores the importance that your content cannot be all about you. There are definitely some places where they can get away with it being all about them. Newspapers are a good example of that. For the most part, their posts are all about them because they are a media organization. But I find that the engagement to be fairly low in terms of people will interact with other people in the comment section, and it's mostly trolls when it comes to news articles, but you're not going to get a lot of interaction with the newspaper, and that's not really their purpose. So unless you are the Toronto Star or the National Post, then I don't really think that posting just about yourself is going to be worth it for you. Oops. So let's talk a little bit about content mix considerations. When you are talking about original content, you really need to know what you have on hand already. So do you have enough original content to really be putting effort into using it as part of your content mix? So you should do a roundup of the information that you have and what you're planning to create. So what articles do you have? Are there webinars or presentations that you're able to share? Have you created white papers and ebooks? What images do you already have on file? Do you have any videos? Maybe you have some old e-newsletters that are still relevant that you could post publicly. So what is the original content that you have on hand, as well as what are you planning on creating? I wanted to take a minute to talk about video. Right now, as those marketers would say, video is king or queen. So when we're talking about Facebook, there are articles everywhere. There is information coming directly from Facebook saying that they are putting more focus on video content. So do you already have video content and can it be repurposed for Facebook? So if you are posting a lot on YouTube, you've got a lot of videos there, are you able to access the raw files to repost them onto Facebook? Because as of right now, posting your raw video file right into Facebook is going to give you like hundreds of times more views than if you just post a link to your YouTube channel, unless you're an incredibly well-established YouTuber. And then what is the purpose of your videos? So just because you have a bunch of videos doesn't mean it's necessarily useful for Facebook. So go back to your marketing personas and figure out, does my purpose apply with these videos? Am I asking people to do something? Am I educating them? Am I showing people something that they need to know? Or is this really just a super cringy, spammy ad that we posted a long time ago that is no longer relevant? So you want to make sure that you are applying the same content rules that you've always applied. For somebody who's doing a really good job of this, I would say Philip DeFranco is somebody that you guys should look at. So he's a YouTuber. He is kind of like a news, current events type guy. He's on hiatus right now, I believe. But basically, he posts his full-length videos, which are anywhere between 12 and 15-ish minutes YouTube videos. He does it every single day, posts these YouTube videos on YouTube, but then he will take snippets. So there are different stories that he covers in his full YouTube video. I don't know why it's not loading. So he'll post these full videos, and then he'll take snippets from that video, and he'll post it directly into Facebook. So I think he's doing a really great job of leveraging the content that he's already creating and then putting it up onto Facebook. So you can see this is his Facebook page, and he's, videos is what he's known for. Videos are what he's known for, and he does all these little snippets, but he doesn't put his full video up because it gives people a reason to go over to YouTube where he's making all of his money, which is what is important, is drawing people over to where he's making money. And I think that you're going to see a lot of this, or this is the best option if you are a video creator and that is what you're doing, that's how you're making money. You can upload these little snippets to then draw people over to your YouTube account until Facebook starts to roll out advertising within videos. So the plan for Facebook, planning to see it probably mid 2017, is to see videos having advertisements in it, and the rumor is that Facebook is going to be giving 50% of the ad revenues to the creators, which is huge, 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 huge news, especially for people who have been creating videos for a really long time, and just have kind of been using Facebook as like a side hustle to get people over to their YouTube videos. Okay, so there are some other considerations when it comes to your content mix. What are your calls to action? So when you are posting those original content pieces or those self-serving tweets, what do you want people to do? Do you want people to sign up to your newsletter? Do you want people to read this article? What is your desired outcome? And have you been testing different calls to action with similar bits of content? Have you researched your audience and community? So this is a huge consideration. If you haven't made those marketing personas for your brand, then who are you posting for? You don't really know. You're posting for people that you think maybe want information from your brand, but if you haven't done any research and you haven't created those marketing personas, then you're kind of just posting to nobody. What does your audience want? Who do they respect? And what can you do to provide that for them? How are you going to be valuable to those individuals? Who are your sources? So if you are posting on Facebook and trying to build your community, and you don't want to be posting just about yourself, are there business relationships that you can leverage? Who's relevant to your community? What sources of information are going to be relevant to those individuals? And then what kind of interactions are you going to anticipate? Knowing how people might react to different content that you post can be really important to your brand. We'll talk more about this in the community management section, which I believe is like week 5.
But let's just take a quick look at this response matrix. So basically what this is a way to anticipate ways that people might interact with your page and what actions you take following that engagement. So if somebody is posting spam, do you have any criteria as to determine what is spam and what needs to be removed? Are you going to be allowing people to post negative comments? And if so, how are you going to engage with those people? Are you going to engage the so-called trolls on your Facebook page, or are you just going to let them roll off your back? Or maybe you're going to remove them. So this is the type of response matrix that can exist. And if you want to take a look at just this next slide that I have as an actual example from the City of Fort Saskatchewan's social media response team. And there's a link below to their SlideShare so that you can get more information. We won't go into this in detail, but this is basically what their stage of response matrix looks like. So they know that anybody who's managing their social media accounts will be following the same rules, and so that they know that if there is something negative posted, or if there is some sort of content that's posted that isn't typical, or that needs some sort of response back, then they have this matrix available for them to use.
Another consideration is how you're going to manage and find your content. So I wanted to quickly go through some tools. These are tools that I talk about in a lot of my other classes as well. Buffer is one example for management. So you can see that I've set this up right now for just my own personal Twitter account and for our Facebook group. So I had set up this this first post that we had. It was take a few minutes to fill out the survey, and I had scheduled it to go out because I didn't want to hit send at 7 o'clock in the morning when my daughter is just getting up and we're doing the crazy morning routine. So I was able to schedule that. And then in Twitter, I have the bookmark bar on my Chrome browser. So if I find an article that I think is really awesome, I can just really easily hit buffer, and that gets pulled right into my account. So this is a way to manage, and they also have analytics as well. I'm just using the freemium buffer, so you don't have to pay for buffer. There's a free version of it, and I highly recommend that you sign up and play around with it. So you can post to your own Facebook profile, you can post to a Facebook page, and you can post to a Facebook group. Similarly, you can manage your content with Hootsuite. So again, I've set it up here. I haven't posted anything through to our group yet, but so you can set up Facebook groups, pages. You can post to your own personal Facebook profile as well. And so it's just a way that you can, write your posts, schedule it, and it goes out whenever you want it to go out. There are some analytics through Hootsuite. I don't love Hootsuite, to be honest. I find it to be clunky, but it seems to be like an industry standard that everybody is using, mostly I would say for Twitter, but you definitely do see it on Facebook as well. Anytime you see somebody posting and the URL is ow.ly, that is a Hootsuite update. In terms of finding your content, I really like using Feedly. So if I have a bunch of popular places that I go to, so I like to read the HubSpot articles, I like the Mashable social media updates. Seth Godin usually posts interesting stuff. I can find all of that in my Feedly account. So Feedly, again, is free. You can sign up. You can use your Google account. You can just use an email, and you get access to this. So you can find other information as well. So let's say I want to add buffer. You type in your source, or you can type in your URL, and Feedly will find it, and then you can add it to your Feedly account. So say Buffer has a few different streams. I want to know about what they're doing for transparency. I'm going to put it into my business section. And then I also want to follow their social, but I want to put that into my marketing section. So now when I look over here, I can go directly to open. These are all of their most recent articles. I can click on it and it'll give me a snippet, or I can go right to the full article. And if you pay to upgrade your account, then you can get different integrations as well. So you'll be able to post like right to Buffer or right to Hootsuite, right from in the Feedly space. So really, if you have all of these sources that you know, okay, like I've got a local newspaper that posts a lot that I think is relevant to my audience, and I have these 3 other blogs of professionals in the field who aren't necessarily my competitors, but they definitely add valuable information for my customers or for my audience. You can add them all here, you get them all in one place, and then you can use this to schedule your content. So those are different options. Oh, of course. And then there is just the straight up Facebook publisher tools. So this is my favorite thing to use because you're already like right in the Facebook atmosphere. So this is the back end of a page that I used to manage that is no longer active, but you can still see it in the back end. So when you are using your using Facebook as a page, you can write your content right here as though you were a main page, or you can go to publishing tools. And then right from within your publishing tools, you can see already what's posted. You can scroll over to your scheduled posts. So if you have, and this is only if you've scheduled it within Facebook, not if you've scheduled it with Hootsuite or Buffer, but if you schedule something right within Facebook, they'll be here. If you have drafted posts, they're here. And if you've got posts that are going to expire, they're in that tab. So I know that I don't have anything scheduled, but if I want to publish a post, I hit the create button, and all of a sudden I'm able to do that. So let's say I want to share this information about Wim Hof. So you can add your link. The link will pull all of the different photos that are there. You can also add your own photos. So if I wanted to show a picture of my client who is a personal trainer doing the Wim Hof method, I could, upload a file there. I can also get rid of this link so it's not clogging anything up. So there's my call to action, and then I know that Wim Hof on Facebook is called Inner Fire, and this is his vanity URL. So what I can do is when you use that vanity URL, it will directly pull up that Facebook profile page. So you can tag that person's page, and it can sometimes alert people who are also fans of that page. So it's just a way to increase your viewership and also to hat tip the original content creator. So if you're able to do this, I highly recommend that you do it, because it's going to not only increase your engagement, but show that you're just a good community member. So I can hit just publish to publish it on the page, or I can backdate it so I can make it show up back in time, or I can schedule it. So let's say I want this to go out Monday morning at 8:18 in the morning. I can do that, and I can hit schedule. And now that's going to show up in my scheduled posts section. So this is just another way that you can use Facebook to manage your content. And I think that, managing everything right within Facebook is a good option. Just because you have all the information already here. I know it can seem overwhelming for most people, but when I manage brand pages on Facebook, I'm usually using the back end of Facebook, or I'm using Facebook Business Manager, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on. Right. What was I? Oh, content calendars. So if you are wanting to know any more about some of the things that we talked about, I've listed calls to action, examples of calls to action. I've listed examples of um, content calendars, all of that information. I've listed it in our supplemental reading. Something that I mentioned before is just about the sheer volume of content on Facebook right now. So this is directly from Facebook that there are 1,500 stories at any given time that could be on somebody's newsfeed every time they log in. And that's for the average person. If you're the type of person who has a lot of friends, you've liked a lot of pages, that number could go up by an entire order of magnitude. So there's a lot of information that is on Facebook at any given time. So scheduling is a very important factor when it comes to posting on Facebook. So when it comes to scheduling, there's probably hundreds of articles that will tell you this is the perfect time to post on Facebook. They'll say post on peak times. So when you're in the back end of Facebook, which we are going to talk a lot more about insights in a future lecture, but this is what I just wanted to highlight, this post information. So you go to insights, and then in your posts section, you can see when your fans are online. So what you get here is an overview. So what we're looking at is an overview. Basically throughout the week, this is the average of when people are online. So everything that you see is in your computer's local time zone. So for me, at 9 o'clock p.m., this is when a lot of people are active for this specific page. But what I can also do is I can go through by date and see when people are online the most by day. So I can actually, I can decide that on Sundays I want to post on peak times, or maybe I want to post on the not so peak times. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both. If you are posting on peak times, you're going to be competing with every other brand that's also trying to post at those same peak times. If you decide that maybe you want to do some long tail targeting in terms of when people are online, you can pick some of the off-peak times. So for example, on Tuesdays between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. there aren't as many people on, but you might actually get more engagement because those people don't have a ton of new content, because other brands aren't going to be trying to get those little itty-bitty group of people. The thing to note is that, if people have liked your page, and if you know that your demographics are good, you don't have like a bunch of irrelevant people following you, then it's okay. These are still your target audience members. Like it's okay to try and target the ones that are up early in the morning. And especially depending on your brand, if you are, let's say, you are like a mommy blogger, and you're trying to figure out when the best time to post is to get some engagement, like 4 o'clock in the morning is a time that moms are up, or parents that have young children are up. So it's totally relevant to be posting that content. And just because you posted it earlier in the day doesn't mean you can't boost that post later on so that people will see it once you get a little bit of organic traction. There's lots of ways that you can leverage it, so don't be afraid of changing up when you do that posting. And when I talk about things like, do you know if the people that are following you are relevant? You can find out a little bit more in terms of demographics in your insights, and I'm getting a bit off track, but since I mentioned it, I wanted to go through it. So if you look at the country where people are from, this can be really important. So this particular brand is based in Canada and working on Canadian poverty issues. So it's a small nonprofit. They're doing a campaign-based Facebook page. So when their campaign is over, their Facebook page won't be active anymore. That's a whole other topic to deal with. But basically, we can see the quality of the people who follow us. And I mean quality based on relevancy. So there are a bunch of people from Canada. That's totally relevant because they're working on advocacy work in Canada. If we had 600 people from Japan or Sri Lanka or something like that following us, I would be suspect as to how those numbers got to us. And this is what happens when you get into the dirty world of buying your Facebook likes. And I won't go too in depth with it. Just to say this, don't buy Facebook likes from random websites that say, $10 for 10,000 likes. They're not going to be quality likes. They're not going to help you get your engagement. And in fact, it will hurt your page. And if Facebook finds out that this is happening because they've targeted some of those fake accounts that are liking you, you can get your page shut down. It's a complete disaster. So don't buy your likes, but also keep a note of this people tab, which will tell you where your audience is from. And then when you're in Buffer, they have a tool called the best scheduling option. So when you go into schedule, you can try our optimal timing tool, and they will use, sorry, frog in my throat. And they'll use their own algorithms to determine when the best time is to post on your page. But with everything that you're doing, any time of thing that you're testing, you definitely want to measure. So what's working for you, what doesn't? If you post on peak times, are you getting more engagement and more interaction, more click-throughs than if you're posting on off-peak times? Is it vice versa? Is there a specific time of day for you and your brand that works best? Is 7 p.m. the optimal time for you? You want to try a bunch of different things and test it out. And finally, how are you going to differentiate your tactics from other platforms? Facebook is different than LinkedIn, is different than Twitter, is different than Instagram, is different than Snapchat, is different than any other social media tool that you're using. So what you're doing on Facebook is probably not going to work on LinkedIn, is probably not going to work on Twitter. So you don't just want to say in Buffer and in Hootsuite, you could easily say I'm just going to post something and I'm just going to post it right across everything the exact same way. That's not going to work for you. These social media environments are different. People interact differently. They're expecting different things from you. If you post something with tons of hashtags on Facebook, because it's also going onto Instagram, it might work really well on Instagram and you might get tons of engagement. But then on Facebook, people aren't that used to seeing tons of hashtags, so it might fall flat on Facebook. So you definitely want to make sure that when you are planning your content for each different social media stream, you're planning it for what people are expecting to see on that social media feed. Okay, so this is assignment 1, content strategy. And what we're going to be doing with this assignment is really getting you to think strategically about how you're using Facebook marketing. Facebook as a marketer. So I know a lot of you are coming at Facebook from a lot of different pathways. So some of you, decided right off the get-go that you wanted to be a digital marketer. You've got a background in marketing, and this is what you always thought you were going to be doing. And there are some of you that, it's kind of been thrown at you for whatever reason. Maybe you're the young one in the office. Maybe you're the social one in the office. Maybe you're just the one who was voluntold to do it because that's the way it is. Or maybe you're the intern and somebody said, oh, the interns can run the Facebooks. So regardless of how you ended up being a Facebook marketer or what your aspirations are, we need to be thinking strategically if we want to be successful digital marketers. So that's the purpose of this assignment. And I just wanted to let you all know that if you're working for a company right now and you're taking this course so that you can be better for that company, feel free to use them as your examples in this course. So you can work through this assignment as though you are Coca-Cola or whatever it is that your brand is. So if you're a brand, a sports team, you're a publisher, or you're a nonprofit even, you can feel free to use your brand. You don't have to, but I do find that you get more out of the assignment if you're using a real world example. So the first thing that you want to do is identify your brand and what's your purpose. So I want to know about you so that I can help give feedback about your marketing personas. So then you need to identify your audience. I want you to create 2 to 4 marketing personas, no more than 4, for your brand, and use one of the templates from the Buffer article that's linked in our additional reading section. The marks are going to be assigned for the completeness of your profiles, not for the number of profiles. So if you have 2 profiles, that doesn't mean that you're going to get fewer marks. So I don't want you to create 4 because you're, oh, I'm going to overachieve and do 4. It's going to be more complete. That's not necessarily true. If you have duplicates, so if you have, 2 personas that could essentially be the same person, then you're going to have marks deducted for that because you're wasting your own time and you're also not going to be as successful at marketing. So please pay attention to all of the different information that you're inputting and make sure that you read through everything and say, yes, these are all very distinct individuals. So you have to include your persona's name, job title, and the details of their job, demographic information, goals and challenges, fears and values, and the marketing message for that individual. Then I want you to determine your content mix. So draw from the theories that we discussed in lecture this week and make a case for your content mix and as well justify your decision. So you're going to see this line a lot in your assignments, justify your decision. And that is for me to get you thinking about why you're making decisions. So a lot of times we make a snap judgment or we say, oh, this is the way that we're going to do things. I really want you to explain the reason why. Because then you'll have a very fulsome understanding of why you're doing what you're doing with a purpose and with some evidence to back you up. So I want you to identify your content sources. So I actually want you to find different sources and link them in the assignment. So it can be influencers, experts in the field, original content. What sources are you going to draw from in your mix? So I don't want you to say I'm going to draw from influencers. I want to know who those influencers are. What are their blogs? What are their Facebook pages? How are you going to be drawing from those content sources? Then I want you to create 6 example posts. You do not have to post these to a Facebook page, but you do need to include the full scope of the post. So I want to see the text of the post, a link, a photo or video, and a note if you're tagging another page. So if you're sharing something from another page, it's always great to tag that page so that they notice and you can amplify your audience in that way. So just make sure that all of those elements are there and ensure that you have your clear call to action and ratios that fit within the theory from that you've decided on for number 3. So that content mix, make sure that the posts follow that content mix that you decided. That's always a tough one. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but do keep that in mind. So then I want you to determine your post schedule and justify it. So your initial schedule will be what? Are you going to post every 2 days, every 3 days? Are you going to be posting every day? How many times a day? Will it be the same time every day? Will you try more than, what is it that you're going to be doing? And just explain why that is the approach. So please submit this in a Google document. So I don't want a Word document, not a Pages document, not a PDF, just a Google Doc. Set it up right in Google Drive. And the reason for this is many different reasons. The first of all is that not every computer uses the same version of Word. I don't want to have to make sure that everything's all up to date. When you submit things via Word and I try and open them in Google, it screws up all of the formatting, so it's not going to look the same. And if you are submitting as a Google Doc, it gives me the opportunity to give you really fast feedback, so I can just highlight a section of your assignment and put a comment in for you to read. And sometimes I'll ask questions. I'm not always looking for a response from you for these. This is just my way of being able to digitally write little notes for you as feedback. And so sometimes I'll do that on assignments. And I can only do that if you've submitted as a Google Doc. And it also means that you're not going to be taking up a ton of space in your Google Drive. So although Google Drive comes with quite a lot of space already, it's just easier to submit as a Google document because you're not taking up storage space. Okay, so in your assignment, use these headings. In the past, I've had people hand in assignments that are just kind of all over the place, and it's really, really difficult for me to mark. And I have almost 50 of you in just this course alone. So I think it's really important that we make sure that everything is structured, easy to read, and then that way when you go back, or if you're handing this into your boss to show them, hey, here's a content strategy that I worked on in class and I got some feedback from my prof, so let's take a look at it. You've got all these really great headings and it's already laid out for you and really easy to read. So keep these headings, and you'll get doc marks if you don't use that layout. And then I want you to name your file properly. And again, this is just so that I can find them properly. I know that sometimes people have a little bit of trouble getting used to Google Drive if they haven't used it before, but as long as your assignment is named properly, I'll be able to find it. So just your last name, your first name, our course code, Mark 9058, and assignment 1. So this is what it would look like if I was naming my assignment. Okay, each of your assignments also comes with a rubric, so you'll see where your marks are coming from. And I always found when I was a student that this was super helpful for me, so that I knew, okay, do I have all of the elements? Do I have everything that I'm getting marked on? This, the total marks is out of 60, but this is worth 15% of your final grade. So don't leave it to the last minute. In my experience, students who have left it to the last minute tend to do worse, but I do know that some of us work best under pressure, so whatever works for you, I guess. So this is assignment 1. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a line in our Facebook group, ask a question. If you've come across great articles and research while you are researching your own marketing personas or anything like that, please feel free to share those articles. And that's it for this week. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everybody.